Bev Mileham, what a privilege to have you on the Heal Space Couches with me. Now, I've always said to Maria, there's somebody that I want to be around. It's Bev. Because, Bev, you're always happy. Why are you so happy?
Oh boy, I don't know. I think energy, as you say, is a very powerful thing. And you're probably going to clip this out, but I actually say that we all walking vibrators, and we all give off vibrations.
No.
And you can actually feel that. When you go into somebody's space, you can actually you can feel somebody's either going to drain you or uplift you, and or otherwise just completely neutral. But obviously, you really want to be that person that people feel better after being in your company. And I mean, that's what I teach, that's what I train, that's what I live. And
You're a happiness coach. You teach people to be happy.
I'm a happiness consultant, and that always gets everybody like, whoa. They either say what exactly, I mean, I've never heard of a happiness consultant, what exactly is it? Or they say, I need you.
Yeah.
That's it.
I've got a question for you. Something that you might have an answer for. Why are people unhappy?
It's the same old thing that you've heard many times before. It's the lens that you look through, and it's first of all, this is actually quite a long explanation, but your happiness depends on, the science of happiness depends on three things, and 50% of your happiness depends on your genes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is quite astounding. Your personality, what you're born with.
Yeah.
So some people are born to be bubbly. That's their type of personality. You get bubbly people, and then you get people that worry a lot, that get, and so on. So it's your 50% of your personality. Only 10% depends on your environment. Like,
Can you believe it?
circumstances. That's why you'll often find somebody very poor in very difficult circumstances, and they're happy. And then you find some people that are very wealthy and they have everything going for them, but yet they are unhappy. And then the other 40% is basically what you do on a daily basis, your daily activities. And I focus on that. In my training, in my workshops, in my talks, in my coaching and everything, I say, what can you do in that 40% on a daily basis that is going to increase your level of happiness? And it is things that you wake up in the morning and what you think about, live intentionally, how you choose.
What you say.
Yes, all of those things. And the things that you spend your time doing and focusing on, your mindset. Are you thinking through a positive lens or a negative lens, and so on? There's many things that will increase you.
No, for sure.
But in that 40%, 50% of it is, I'm actually fortunate that my personality is that bubbly, outgoing type of personality, which is plays in my favor. But then I also do the things in that 40% sphere that.
What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
So first of all, this is very interesting. I decide the night before what time I need to wake up the next morning. Okay, so I live very intentionally, and I live it's productively. So I tell myself, your brain is extremely powerful, and I tell myself what time I need to wake up tomorrow morning. So obviously sometimes I still set an alarm clock because I'm catching a flight or whatever. And I will always wake up at least 5 minutes before that alarm clock goes off. Because your brain is powerful, it says,
Yes.
that's it. And I lie in bed for at least 10 minutes before I get up, deciding about how my day is going to go and what my intention is for the day. It doesn't mean to say things aren't going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Things can still go wrong, but a positive mindset is going to beat a negative one every single time.
Absolutely.
So I get excited for my day. I literally do. I say today's going to be flippin' awesome. I'm so grateful. I've got this opportunity. I'm going to do that. This might be a challenge, but this is how I want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And I decide. And I actually choose a word for the day. So I read this book once by John Gordon, Jon without the H, John Gordon. And he said the word can change your life.
Yeah.
So I always have a word for the year, and I have a word for each day. So if I'm going to go and run a workshop, for example, I usually choose the word excitement because you can feel that, you can feel this, it's excited, you can feel the energy and so on. If I'm going to go into a difficult, challenging meeting or something, then maybe it's going to be calm or listen more than talk, or, I choose a word, whatever word you need, and I keep bringing myself back to that throughout.
What is your word for today?
Focus.
Focus. Focus. It's an important one.
Because I know when I come into a situation like this, I'm going to be all over the show, and my mind runs it, and I've got a lot going on at the moment. This time of the year is quite hectic.
Absolutely.
And so I said to myself this morning, Bev, just focus, be in the moment.
Just to add to you, Bev, is that I saw it on a video somewhere of some influencer or coach that said something like 95% of things that we actually worry about never happens. So we spend our life worrying about things that will not happen or is not going to be happening. So how amazing is that?
Big part of that, we can learn a lot from children. Children enjoy the moments. They're not worried about the future or the past. We spend so much energy, including myself, worrying about what's going to happen or what has happened and so on, and living in the moment right now. I often cite that as well. I say, we spend our life worrying about things that are never actually going to happen.
Yes.
My great aunt, who lived, she was 100 years old. I was very close to her. She used to say, you only worry about something where you actually have to worry about. Don't start worrying before you actually have to worry about.
Yeah.
And we do.
Absolutely. What is your word for the year? What was the
Impact.
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 I use that. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you will see, I've used it as a hashtag. I've been running a workshop, particularly in schools, but also in corporate, called Your Impact, and the impact that you have on your own life as well as on everybody else around you, especially, educators and so on the life of children, their learners. But besides that, just in this community, it's been my focus of having an impact. That's why I've been involved in so many different initiatives this year, making as many positive impacts as that I possibly can. So, yes. And I'm still busy choosing my word for next year. So
not done yet.
No.
Fantastic. Yeah, this year is flying past. It's almost 2026. I've asked you to review my book, Divorce Not Defeated. And I did it deliberately because I wanted somebody's opinion, like yourself, a professional that, and the biggest thing for me, you and your husband's been married now, about 35 years, if not longer. But I mean, you haven't been divorced. And I wanted to have somebody's take on my book, Divorce Not Defeated, that, hasn't gone through a divorce and get their feedback. Can I ask you, what's your, and I know what you said on my book launch, but what is your feedback on my books?
So, Mornay, first of all, you took me completely by surprise with this book. It's, I didn't know this part of you at all. So I knew you on more, obviously as a friend, but on a more professional level. And so on, and I was always admiring your talents, and that's in with regards to the theatre and film and so on, and that's where we obviously had connected. And then when you asked me to read this book, I had no idea that you'd written a book, and I mean that you sent it to me, as a PDF before it was even published, and so on, and I felt extremely honored. Number one. And I've told you this before. I couldn't put the book down. I couldn't put my phone down. That I was reading it on, and you sent it to me on a Sunday, and I read it from beginning to end that entire day. And wow, I love reading, but honestly, this is such a well written book. And first of all, I want to ask you, when did you decide to write this book, and how long? When did you start writing it?
Bev, yeah. So if you told me 5 years ago I'm going to write a book, I would have said you're absolutely crazy. But the reality is that 25 years ago, while I was in my second marriage, already divorced once, my dream was also always to be a psychologist. And being in a technical school and, being a very technical person, I couldn't go to university because I haven't had uh, things like biology and that kind of stuff. So I wasn't accepted into university to do that. So I went and studied something else. We're also on the path to become a pastor. I studied theology. But at the age of 25, in my second marriage, I decided that I want to pursue my dream. And I was very fortunate and unfortunate because I only finished my first year of psychology studies through UNISA. Being in your second marriage, I had 3 little girls at that time, being a dad, being a husband, being, the breadwinner. It was very tough. So unfortunately, after a year, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, studying until 6, it just, I couldn't carry on. And I stopped, with only 1 year behind me. And then life happened. I got divorced again, I got married again, and I got divorced again. I was on this destructive path in it, and I don't say too much about it because you can, the people want to know my story, could read it in my book. But when I got married, before I got married for the 4th time, I actually went and sat down and said, this is it. I cannot do the same thing expecting a different result. So what do I need to change? And I did a lot of introspection, realized the trauma that I had in my own life before I got married for the first time, which wasn't dealt with. The trauma from my first, second, and third marriage, it just piled up. And before I went into another relationship, I actually sat down and I worked on my trauma and my issues, and I started fixing it, and I'm still working through it today. But when I met Maura, she inspired me. We sat down the first day we were together when I met her, and I told her everything about my life. And she said, why don't you pursue your dream of, becoming or studying psychology? And that's what I did 3 years ago. And when I was very close to the end of getting my degree, I got this urge to tell my story. And as you said, it's raw. It is, it's out of my heart, and it's basically telling my side of the story, not pointing fingers at any of the wives, what they did wrong, but rather what I did wrong and how it affected my children. So I started writing this book, and it was an absolute, and I think that was part of my healing journey as well, to sit down and write this book, because things came out that I forgot about. Things came out that very different from how I planned this book.
I just wanted to say that that's what I've really, really found incredible, is that, I found your story, I had an incredible amount of admiration for you, how you've opened up and how vulnerable you were. And we really saw that, so much about you in it. But then you take from it all the lessons learned and things that people can actually do, like a workbook to help them with what they're going through.
Absolutely.
And there's ways to journal and frameworks and so on and so forth, which is absolutely incredible. And I love that because there was a lot of, even though this is a very different avenue to my coaching completely, but there was a lot of similarities, things that I would do that's going to help you, lead a more enlightening life and so on. And there's a lot of similarities. So I love that. Yeah. My husband and I often talk about it. I don't know how people actually fit in getting divorced once in their life, because it must be, take up so much energy and so much space and so much trauma and so on and so forth. And for you to have gone through that 3 times is just mind-boggling. What was the biggest lesson learned? What would you tell, or let me put it to you this way. What would you tell your 19-year-old self now? What you know?
If I had the opportunity, and it ties very much in on what we're doing with our trauma counseling, is to go to a younger self, not the trauma, not the event, but the emotion. And if I had the opportunity to go back, the first thing I would tell them is that love is not enough. And that's something that I've learned through all my marriages. Like when you meet somebody, you're all in love and you think that this is it, but after time it starts fading. And I don't think love will never go away if you really love that person. But love in itself, is not enough to make a relationship or a marriage work. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I would try to convince my 19-year-old self to find happiness before he finds, a partner. and go into marriage. Because if somebody else is making you happy, because they can very much and very quickly stop making you happy, then you are unhappy. So happiness comes from within. You need to be happy. You need to love yourself. And I've written one of, while I was writing my book, which was a quite of a long period, I wrote a little manual called Learning to Love Yourself Again, which is on our website available. But saying that is, for my 19-year-old self, I would definitely make him understand that you have to love yourself. Nobody else can make you happy. Yes, I can contribute in making my wife laugh. I can make her happy in certain ways. But if my wife is not happy, I cannot make her happy, and vice versa. I cannot expect. I think it's a very unrealistic expectation when you're in a married to somebody. You expect that person to make you happy, because if they have an off day, you're going to have an off day, because if your happiness is absolutely reliant on the way they make you feel, there's a big problem. So absolutely, those are two crucial things. And not even to speak about, heal trauma. Don't go into a marriage or a relationship when you've got issues. Yes, sometimes it's not easy or not possible to go, but make a decision and work on your trauma. We spoke about it in the first episode as well. Trauma is your responsibility.
I think it was wife number 3, where it started off pretty good, and then only later on you realize under the surface all the challenges and the depression and the things that she was having to deal with, the chronic illness and so on and so forth, right? And then I noticed that when you went into your 4th marriage, which is with Moira, you said it again now, that you told her everything.
Yeah.
About yourself. You didn't go into that.
Yeah.
So, and you just answered that. You've just stressed that again now about what would you tell your younger self, that love is just not enough. You actually got to have that complete openness and understand each other. And I always say in my training as well that nobody but yourself is responsible for you and your happiness and your success, and you are responsible for your life. And you can't, as you say, make the next person happy if they've got issues. So Monet, I mean, going forward from here, I mean, this is absolutely incredible, and it's really exciting. I love the whole book launch and everything. But what are the plans going forward? Because, like I said at your book launch as well, that, sorry, let me just say this first, is that what makes me incredibly excited is that this is clearly, now that I've really got to know you, what the Japanese call your ikigai, right? Your reason for being. I mean, you wonder why the heck you had to go through what you through all those years, and now it's pretty clear, there was a reason for it. I believe that every single person's been put on this earth for a reason, your reason for being. And your reason for being is clearly, the experience that you've been through, the resilience that how you've come out of it and what you've learned from it, and how you can now help others. And it's amazing that even at the age of 25, you started, you wanted just to study psychology and everything. So this all prepared you for where you are today. And I take my hat off to what you've been through, what you've done, what you've studied, how you become, certified and qualified and so on. Now you've got the world ahead of you. Yeah. And now how are we going to take this forward?
Bev, the future. Yes, one thing that I can tell you is that I am very excited about the future. My passion to help people, and writing the book was the first step for me while I was studying, and now that I'm qualified and I've got my psychology degree, my trauma counseling, my professional counseling, I've actually started a new certification as well, which is sexology. I think sexology is or intimacy in a marriage is not only the glue, but a lot of marriages fail because of that. So that's something I wanted to equip myself with in my practice, to understand the psychology behind intimacy and to help people with that as well. The way forward is obviously early next year, 2026, I'm going to be putting up a practice in our area with 1 or 2 more counselors, and have a same as the app, and I'm going to talk about the app now, but to have a diverse practice so that we can help a lot more people. But a safe space where we can do one-on-one sessions. It's going to be a practice very different if it comes to trauma counseling, with some extras that can help people, contemplate and work through the trauma that we help them with. I recently designed and put an app together called Heal Space, the same as this podcast.
And real space is where other coaches can
Absolutely.
share that.
Absolutely. And it will be available soon on Apple and Android, all across the platforms, all across the world. And it's going to be an app where you can download free of charge, have it on your phone, and we're going to do daily blocks with not more than 40. I'm looking to get 40 professionals on the app called Heal Space. And so a variety of different people network to have a community of professionals on this app that covers all the aspects. At the moment, we already got an alcohol counselor on there, to help people struggling with alcohol and any other addictions. We've got a medical doctor on there. We've got my daughter who's specialized in childhood trauma on there. There's a variety of people on the app.
Somebody else might be dealing with somebody that feels that they need you, and those and it's just that mentality of abundance and helping each other.
We're going to have daily, like I said, daily blogs on there which can inspire people that these professionals and to help them on a daily basis. Also free sessions once a day. I have a free session on there with one of these professionals, and that will be available hopefully by the end of the year, which is around the corner, or early next year will the app be available. So I'm setting myself up not as an individual, but as somebody that's taking hands with a lot of professionals around me. If you look at the human itself, we are very complex, and I'm always thinking of, when you treat somebody, you need to treat them holistically. When I'm counseling somebody and they need medication, I want to be able to phone up my colleague and say, listen, can you see this client? They need medication or something. And that's just one example, but if somebody comes to me and I can deal with the trauma, but if they've got an addiction, I need to refer them to somebody else. And that's what Heal Space is about. A space that you can come in and get help for any problem that you have, and we can help you heal. Safe space. And that is what Heal Space is all about. That's what my book is all about. To help people that has gone through a long journey of trauma and failed relationships, and the list just goes on.
Fantastic. It excites me immensely. I'm just so happy that you're making this happen. Everything that your life has happened to you in your life has led you to this. You've studied now. You are so well prepared.
Yeah.
You're setting everything up digitally. You've got the hard copy book, and the next one's
Old timers. I like the book.
Me too, and I love it, and I will highlight and put stickers and stuff like that. I love the physical book.
Bev, I want to thank you for taking the time and just coming to the Heal Space couches and just talking to me. I love you in what you do, your happiness, and me and Moira are very privileged to have you in our lives. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to review my book. I've given you the hard copy, which is, we old timers, we like, making notes and reading it. But I want to thank you for taking the time not only to review my book, but to come and share your passion on happiness with me.
That's amazing. Well done. Congratulations. Yeah, to you and to Moira.